Hi, it's Jared from Strongest Farm. Today, we're talking chickens. And so more specifically, we're gonna talk about how to coop train your chickens. So if you're not aware, what I'm talking about is when you bring chickens home for the first time, or you're moving them from coop to coop, from a winter coop to a summer coop, from a chicken tractor to your permanent egg layer coop, how do you get them trained to that coop? How do they know where to go? How do they know to get in at night, specifically through like a motion door or a programmable lighted door like I have? How do they know where to go and nest? How do they know where to go and perch and not stay outside and get killed? How do you train them to do that? And so today in this video, not only am I going to talk about chicken designs, chicken coop designs, I'll go through that, but I'm also going to teach you how to chicken coop train or coop train your chickens. That is all coming up right after this. All right, well, welcome back. I'm glad you came back, but I want to call your attention to two other previous videos that I've made that will help you in this video. So specifically, the video I just released last week or over the weekend was about purchasing chickens. And so I've had some negative comments, mainly from people that didn't watch the whole video and realize the math and see what I was talking about. So I'm glad to hear negative comments. I'm glad for your opinions. But if you're not going to watch the whole video, don't criticize me on the math when I teach it to you, if you're not going to watch the whole video and just take me at one little point. In that video, I discuss why it's important as a first-time chicken purchase. So you're your first time getting chickens, you do not have chickens right now, why you shouldn't buy baby chicks. And that's an emotional purchase. I talked about that. I went through the numbers, and I talked to you about why you should just go ahead and buy layers that are already laying. 5-month to a year-old chickens that are ready to lay right now or that are already currently laying. And I showed you how you can save money doing that and get you right into this egg laying business and what we're talking about today. So if you haven't seen that, that's a very important video to watch on how to purchase chickens to get started. The next video I want to call your attention to is about a year ago, I made a video on this coop. And so I took you completely through the coop, every feature of the coop that we went through, why I designed it the way I did, all the factors of it. And so I'm not going to go through all that today in this video. If you want to see specifically my coop, and the automatic feeders, the automatic waters, the automatic doors, how we move it on a daily basis. If you want to see all that info, please go back, click on my videos, like and subscribe, and go back in my videos and watch that video on that. That will help you if you're going to design your own coop. So I moved out here a little bit away from the chickens so that the noise is a little better for us, but the sun is in my eyes. So sorry if it's bad sound or bad film, but I'm gonna go through these. And so I wanna talk pros and cons of coops. And so when we talk about coop training, the kind of coop you have has a lot to do with it. I am always gonna recommend a mobile coop, a chicken tractor style coop where you can move it along, the floor is open, they can get to the grass, and you can move that coop. And there are a lot of coops out there from stuff that people have designed. John Siskovich has a very good coop that you can alternate and make it adaptable for layers. That's kind of my preferred method on a small coop if you're going to design a small coop. But there's small ones at TSC and Amazon and all kinds of things, something like this. Next, you're going to have what we would call just mobile coop houses that don't have any protection around. They're not a tractor themselves. They're just basically a chicken house on a wagon. They were made very famous by Joel Salatin. He's kind of the one that started that movement. And so basically they move these around, but they have to set up netting. It's advised to have guard gooses. They don't protect very well against aerial predators. And those things are going to look something like this. The last coop is your standard barnyard chicken coop. It's a building that sits in one spot. Perhaps it has a run. Perhaps you just let them out to roam the barnyard, roam freely around your barnyard. And that's kind of the standard. That's what my great-grandmother had. It's what my grandmother had. They just let them roam free around the barnyard. And you lose a lot of chickens that way. There's a lot of production issues with that. There's a lot of issues with and it's harder to train to coops like that, I will tell you that. So chickens will just lay in the wrong spot because they're comfortable with the area. And I'm going to go into why we do certain things a certain way in a minute. But these coops, most people that choose these coops choose these style of coops because they make them look nicer. You end up with like a chicken Taj Mahal, something like this. So whatever coop you have, it doesn't really matter. You bring chickens, whether they're full grown or baby chicks home, you have to train them. And so if you bring a baby chick home, it's going to go into a brooder. I'm not going to go into how to raise baby chicks in this video, but it's a smaller pen, typically inside of a building, in your barn, in a shop. You can use Rubbermaid totes, whatever. But the chickens are going to start out in something very small. And as they get older, they grow, and you're going to keep them in something separate. I would recommend do not put them in your layer coop, whatever you're going to use as a layer coop. Do not put them in there until 22 weeks, till they're ready to lay, 20 to 22 weeks. So keep them in a separate coop, because really they're just meat birds until they actually start laying eggs, essentially. You can run them in tractors, and that's probably what I would recommend, a Siskovich or a Salatin style tractor. Move them along in these things across the field every day. Feed them just like you would your meat birds. Move along through that. And then when it comes time for them to go into a layer coop, you would move them over into another style coop. So this is the point that the education of this video comes along. So we've got our chickens. They're just started laying. They've been laying a month, or you've purchased them and they've been laying 6 months, or you're moving your chicks in and they are getting ready to lay soon. That's the period we're going to talk about from now. From that point on, you need to chicken train, to coop train your chickens, okay? So we're going to teach them where the water is. We're going to teach them how to get to their feed. We're going to teach them how to come in and how to go back in, how to come out and how to go back in at night. As I walk you through each one of these steps, I hope to not just be like a book and just lecture you and show you. I hope to show you what I'm talking about with minimal, disruption to my chickens personally. But I'm going to try to show you what I would do and take you through that. So as we get to this step, day one, what I'm going to do is bring my chickens into my coop. I typically prefer to do this in the evening. I don't want to lock them up in here, which is what we're going to do. I don't want to lock them up in here and leave them in here all day during the heat. If it's the hot heat of the summer or whenever you're going to do that, you kind of have to judge the temperature. So if you're going to do this during the summer, you want to do this kind of in the evening as the sun starts to go down. I'm going to take all the chickens from day one. They've never been in this coop before. Shut my automatic door down, and I'm going to lock them up in here. So I'm going to put them in here. I want them to be in here at least 12 hours. So if it's 6 p.m. at night and they're going to come out at sunup at 6 a.m., whenever your sun's going to rise, we're putting them in here. We're going to lock them up in here. We're going to put our feet up on our nest boxes. If you have your nest boxes in something like this, whatever you're doing to keep them in this building, or the coop part of your structure, you're going to lock them in there. Just leave them in there. You don't need to put feed in there. Just put a little bell water in there just to give them a little bit of water, and they'll be fine. Once you have all your chickens locked into the coop part, you're kind of set up for the next morning. And so what I'm going to do, you can see over here I have an automatic pipe water, and all that stuff's going to be full and ready for them. My feeders are going to be full, my waters are going to be full, all of that, of course. But I'm going to take little cups, a pan, maybe a hog feed pan, and put it underneath one of those and put a little bit of water into it. And so it just directs them that over there is the water. It'll have them some water, an inch of water in a hog feed pan just to get them started. And then they'll start pecking around. They're going to be nosy and go around and explore everything. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a handful of feed and I'm going to sprinkle it around each one of these feeders. Not very much, just a handful of those pellets, just kind of sprinkle it around each one. And they're going to, as they're wandering and searching, they're going to find that feed, and then they're going to realize, oh, the rest of that feed is in that bucket that was right next to. So that's how they're going to find the feed. Right. So it's nighttime. We're coming out here, and we want to herd the chickens up the ladder back into their coop. We want them to go in the door that's going to come automatically down, that they're naturally going to have to go in. So if I was to open this door up and chuck this chicken in there and expect her to realize that she's supposed to go in that building every night, it's not going to realize that. you have to train them to go in the door that they go in. And so this is going to be very hard how to show you to do this, but I'm just going to kind of move them along slowly and push them up in towards that door. And so underneath here, the very first night, they would get underneath there. I'd send one or two of my kids underneath there with a tobacco stick. You don't hit the chickens. You just kind of wave it around, or a flag is good. Wave it around and they'll come out, and you just try to slowly herd them up in there. If you come out the very first night and 0 chickens are up in there and it's getting dark, one trick I have found is to take a flashlight or two and stick it so that that is bright in there and it's darker out here. So it's not completely dark, you're coming out at dusk, but if you put a light bulb in there or a flashlight in there that makes that hole light up so that they think, oh, there's light there, that'll help. So come out an hour before you want them to go in and put those flashlights in there. But then we start herding them in there. It's really weird looking. And if there's 0 in there, I'm gonna pick up one, I'm gonna catch one of them and throw the first one up in there. Once the first one goes, the others realize, oh, there's some stuff up in there, or there's another chicken up in there. And then I'm gonna start herding them. Usually about 10% on night 1 for me finds the coop correctly. So if I have 40 birds, I got 4 of them up in there. The rest of these birds are all being knuckleheads, and I have to kind of herd them. First night, I'm gonna get half of them to go by shoeing them. Half of them are gonna learn, the other half are gonna be waterheads, and you're gonna have to catch them, but you throw them in that hole. So I would put one of my sons there with his hand over the hole so none of them come back out, grab the chickens, put them up in that hole, and I almost like pretend like we're walking them up the ramp and put them in there, teaching them how to go in that hole. Once we have them all in, we can then inspect the coop. Did they dig anywhere specific? Did they eat all the feed out of one feeder but not another feeder? Did they tip something over? Is there something that's working or not working? I'm going to check every nipple water, all those things, make sure they had water in them. I'm going to go ahead and refill that pig pan again, or put another inch in it for day 2. I'm going to add something else in the pen though. Day 2, I'm going to add my oyster shell, and I just use a little feed pan and throw my oyster shell in it. But the chickens are all up in there for the evening. We've shut the door down. We all have our good laugh and we go inside. Next morning, door opens up, chickens come back out. I guess I should mention, we move our coop every night. So when our chickens go up in, we shut the door, we pull our coop forward to brush fresh new grass. So everything's clean when they come out day 2. So day 2, we come out at dusk. We can come back out and put that flashlight back out there if you think that helps. I think it's a tremendous help. I have a little Craftsman battery light that uses my drill batteries. I just stand that up, shine the light at the ceiling. And so I'll come out an hour before we want them to go in, and I'll turn that flashlight on, and that'll help them. That'll help them the first few nights. And so day 2, I'm out here at dusk, come out with my family again. About half of them on day 2 is typically in there. Don't get frustrated. If you come out on day 3 and still only 2 or 3 chickens are getting up in there, they're just a little more stubborn than normal, but it's gonna be okay. So day 2, we come out, you hope for at least 50%, but let's say 10 go up. So 4 the first night, 10 the second night. But as you start to shoe them and you learn how to herd them a little better, try not to touch them, try to just nudge them along, push them up in there, more chickens will go easier. But you're gonna have the last 4, 5, 6 that are struggling, that are just the butt heads of the group. You're gonna grab them, jam them through the correct door, shut the door down. That's the end of day 2. Day 3, 4, and 5 is exactly the same. Okay, so you're just gonna come out, put your flashlight out, come out, move them back in there. Hopefully every night there's less and less and less chickens. I have had this done in as quick as 3 days before. Day 3, I come out, there's 1 or 2 chickens out, I put them in. Day 4, I come out in the evening and they're all in there. I didn't have to do anything. That's best case scenario, I'm telling you that. Joel Salatin's book says it can be done in 3 days every time. That is not true. Not every time. There's always gonna be those 1s or 2s, especially when you have a smaller group of chickens. You only have 6, it may take a few nights. So day 3, 4, and 5, plan on still coming out and doing the exact same thing. And then one night you're gonna come out and they're all gonna be in there. So you think you've done it, you think everything's good and you're done, but you're not. Do not quit at this point. So let's say you take it all the way to day 5. Day 5, you come out and they were finally all the way up in there. The door shuts down on its own. You move it forward, you check it. You need to do this for another week. Even if every night that you come out, they're all up in there and that automatic door shuts down, you need to check on them at dusk for another 7 days. You need to come out and do that. So whatever your plans are, whatever your sporting events, your vacations, or whatever you got going on in your life, when you get your chickens, just know the next 10 days, you have responsibilities every night at dusk to check on those chickens. Why do I say this? Because I have found there is always, especially in warmer weather, there is always going to be one that wants to revert back, especially with nice perches that I have inside this coop. We'll come out, they were all trained for 5 days in a row. They didn't do anything different 5 days in a row. But I come out on day 6 and there's that one hen that got stuck up on the bar and fell asleep or whatever she did, and she forgot to go in with the rest of them. So we tap her on the butt. Don't grab a hold of her. Push her off the perch and shoo her in. Don't pick her up. If you pick her up, she doesn't learn as well. That's what I found. So shoo them in. You can use a little flag or stick or a little panel, but try to use your hand and just shoo them up in there where they get used to you. There are some tricks to this, which I'll go into in a minute, but you have to check it for that 10-day period. After that, they should go in by themselves, completely normal. And if you are perfect at this, if you have done an excellent job by day 4, you'll never have any incidences after day 4. But I'm telling you, keep checking, because you can't just depend on that door to go down and them all to be in there. So that's it. That's coop training. Kind of. So there's some tricks and there's some problems that will arise, and I'm going to tell you about those now. So first off, if you're by yourself, if you're a homesteader and it's just you and your wife, and the husband maybe works second shift, and so there's only going to be one person there to put them in, it's not going to be easy by yourself, I'll tell you. But there are some tricks. So they sell these little worms. Essentially, they're dried worms. They're like little chicken treats, okay? You can take some of those, put a little pile of them inside the coop in a bowl, just less than a handful, and then sprinkle a few on the stairs. Once you get 1 or 2 to eat them, back away, and the other chickens will go to that, and then you can start shooing them inside. Once they see that there's something special inside, that will help. And so you can use these to help get started. Don't use these every night though, because as soon as you stop giving them those, they're more likely to revert back. So that's why I don't say to do that all the time. Just in special circumstances, or maybe for that, just getting them started that first night, you could try something like that. Another reason they might revert is if there's not enough square footage bar wise for chickens to perch. So inside your coop part, if there's not enough places for everyone to have a nice seat and still have open capacity, it doesn't matter if there's 5 extra spots. Let's say you have 50 chickens and there's 5 extra spots. They're going to fight for a certain spot, and then some chickens are going to eventually be on the ground, and then they're not going to want to go in. So you need more perches available than you have chickens, in my opinion. Is it double? Not quite, but you need to have plenty of available room for them to perch inside the coop. And I have seen when people don't put enough perching space, chickens are less likely to go in and feel comfortable. The last thing on reverting back comes with movement. So if you have one of these chicken Taj Mahal fancy coops that stay positioned in one spot, you're going to have these problems. And I don't know necessarily 100% the answer for you, and I'm sorry about that, but they're going to get comfortable with where they're stationed. So wherever that coop is at, they're going to get more and more and more comfortable every day, and they're going to feel safer outside that coop. And that is not a good situation. You want them that is their safest place to feel. So if you let them come out that coop and they can go perch on a wood pile, or they can go perch on this little tree, or they can go perch on some farm equipment, because that chicken coop is stationary and it has to stay there, they're going to feel comfortable in those positions. And if you leave them outside 1 or 2 nights, it's going to be a nightmare to get them to go back in at times. You're going to be running them in every night, hating your life with chickens because you have a stationary coop. That is why I recommend a mobile coop. when I move the coop forward, even if it's only 25 feet, when they come out, can you imagine if you went to bed and you woke up and you walked out your front door and you were in a different town? Like, what the heck's going on? That's kind of what the chickens are experiencing. So they don't feel as comfortable. They're like, oh, there's food, oh, there's water, there's green grass, we're safe. I remember some of this stuff, but some things are changed. And that's kind of the way they feel. So their safest place is always inside the coop part where they sleep at night, because that never changes for them. And that's how I maintain that sense of security being in there, is by moving my coop. You can do this with a mobile coop like the Salatin trailers, by setting up different netting in different spots, rotating them through pastures, moving your chicken tractors forward. All those things can help this. The only thing I don't have for you is, if you bought one of those fancy stationary coops, how do you fix this? Other than changing the direction of it, if that's even possible, or moving things around it in a different way. Or perhaps if you have a dog and you can train this dog to chase chickens at night. And so some of these dogs we've had where they won't touch the chicken, they'll go and nose it, and the chickens are scared of the dog. That's another method that you can do. But I don't ultimately like that. It seems like it's a stress on the animals. So once you've done this, it should be a success. You got your 7 to 10 days under your belt. You're checking them. You're keeping your feed there. They have no issues. You're moving your coops. They are now officially coop trained, with one exception. If you have a coop like this that you move around, but the winter time, you put them back in a stationary coop, which a lot of people do, and I'm not anti this method. Put them in some deep bedding in a greenhouse or in a building. You're protecting them. It's a way to keep your eggs from freezing. I get why you do it. But you're moving them from a mobile coop into a building like that. And then in the spring, you decide you're going to take them back out of that building, back to their mobile coop. When you put them back, you have to retrain. So they will catch on quicker. They will know quicker. They will, it may only take you 2 nights, but you have to retrain, because they have just now been trained to the building versus this mobile coop again. So retrain, be safe with it, watch them, check them every night for 4 or 5 nights again, and you should be good on that on the retraining if you go to a winter coop. The last thing you have to train for, once you get your chickens coop trained into your coop, is now train them for the nests. How do you train your chickens to lay their eggs in the nest boxes? And I don't have a good solution for you. I just have a couple recommendations that I think that'll help. There is no foolproof way for this. First thing is I don't have any other options for them. So I take the bedding down. When I put them in the coop, when they're going to start laying, it's straight grass down here. I typically don't put brand new chickens in the winter. They're going to start laying, so it's grass. They're not going to feel comfortable in the grass. And I don't leave my coop bedding too deep where they can make a nest. So they don't feel comfortable making a nest there. In my nest boxes, however, I have roll-away expensive nest boxes. But what I'll do is I'll take that fake grass out where they roll away. And for the first month, I will pack straw in there. I will make it very comfortable for them to lay in those nest boxes. I will leave the nest box arms down for the first month, and they will feel very comfortable and safe. And so what do they need to do? There's a few key points about nest boxes. So first, you do not have to buy these fancy nest boxes. I'm not even sold on them, and I have them. But there are a few key points about nest boxes that you need. So it needs to have a perch of some sort. It doesn't have to raise up, but it helps if it does to keep them out of them. If you have trouble with chickens getting broody, you can use these. It's nice to have the option there, but it's not required. The main thing is they have a perch, just like this chicken just jumped up here in my way. They need to have something to make it dark in there. They don't like it if the light shines in there. They need to have good bedding, deep bedding where they feel comfortable to lay their eggs and make a little nest in there. And it needs to have a front lip. So I've seen people that put flat boxes just down on the floor of their coop, and they say the chickens won't lay in there. And it's because of a lip. They have to have a lip to go over and in. And so what I recommend to those people who put flat boxes or use milk crates on their side is to put a 4x4 on the ground, just right in front of it, and make them climb up over that 4x4 into that box, and that'll be just fine. They'll lay in there just fine. So reduce the amount of other spaces they can lay, have a good, well-built nest box with lots of straw in it. Even if you have fancy roll-away ones, start them in the straw, or hay, whatever. Don't use bedding like sawdust bedding. Use straw or hay. And then make it easy for them to go in there in the dark. And so if you see that where your nest boxes are, lots of light is shining to it, that could be the reason they're not going in there. They like to be kind of in a darker, more secluded. It's kind of like they're ladies and they're doing their business. They really don't want people spying on them. The last thing you can do with these nest boxes is you can go ahead and take a few eggs and put them up in there. And we did that. So if they take eggs, if they lay eggs, the first few nights, I would leave the eggs in there. And so let them know if they lay their egg in there, it's gonna be safe. But if they would lay them on a floor or in a corner or somewhere else, which will happen, we immediately took that egg. And so they learned that that was not a safe spot to lay their egg. But if no chickens are laying yet, or they start to lay, you see the very first egg, go to the store, go wherever, or hopefully you have some other chickens and you did this the way I told you in my other video, but you'll take some eggs and you'll put eggs actually up in there. So we would take a carton of eggs if we go from our winter coop into here, take a carton of our eggs, put them back up in there, retrain them to the nest boxes, and they're gonna see those eggs up in there and they'll be like, oh, that's where I lay my eggs. And that's not a hard thing to do. So we typically have more trouble coop training chickens than we do training them to our nest boxes, just so you're aware. But those are some things you can do. They want them to be dark, they want to have a lip, they want a soft hay or straw bed, and they want to know that their eggs are going to be safe. And you can do that by putting another egg in there and not letting eggs lay on the floor. Remove those as quick as you can. Well, there you have it. I hope this video helps you. Please comment if I missed something or you have a question about how I do something. I'm more than happy to show you and how we herd them in there or push them if that would better help you. But I think you get the idea, and I think I've covered all the points that we go through when we're coop training chickens. But know that you're gonna have to do it. One thing I didn't mention is if you skip a night, one night skipping will cost you 7 nights. So if you go day 2 and 3 and you forget and you're out on the town on night 4 and they stay out, those ones that stay out will take 7 more days of training. You'll have to start the process all over again. So don't miss. Be diligent about those first 10 days. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for following us along. Let us know if we can help you in any other way.